All right, welcome to another episode of Math on the Rocks. Just as an always, we got to always remember to remind people to subscribe either on, let's see, Apple or Spotify or YouTube. We've got video versions, we've got audio versions. But we're doing a special introduction. Why are we doing a special introduction, Cole?
Oh, I was just going to say, be careful there, Duane. People are going to start thinking we're official with all those titles you're throwing out there. But no, this is kind of like the pre-cap recording for our CMC Math on the Rocks Live that we just did at CMC South a few weeks ago. So super excited.
Yeah, and so, people need to know that what you're going to hear is our first try at trying to be professional on the road. And true to form, it was a little rocky, but we had a blast. So welcome to this episode of one of our guests from CMC South. Hey, welcome! Welcome to another episode of Math on the Rocks. This is a special live episode. We are here in Palm Springs Friday. Cole, what are we doing?
We are just recording live. Super excited. Anybody else still out there, please come join us for our last live episode today.
Now, Cole said join us. Now, who are we? We are Duane and
Cole.
I am Merced County Office of Education. That's my day job. My night job is I am California Math Council Central President. And Cole?
I work for the Kern County Superintendent of Schools office, day job, but then I am the president-elect for the Central Section.
And what the heck are we doing here today?
We are having some fabulous conversations. I'm so excited for all these to hit the website here in just a few weeks, a couple weeks maybe, Duane, yeah? But this last one I've been waiting for all day, because I knew this was going to be the energy, was that I need to get me through the rest of the day with Miss Yolande Beckles.
Hi, Cole. Hi, Duane. My boys.
Yeah, we are so excited to have you and to really finish strong, because I know we were going to be talking about families and communities, and I am just excited. So thank you.
No problem. Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be on Math on the Rocks. I hope someone's bringing me a gin and tonic so I can really math it up for this session. Well, we're on a podcast. There's no children in the room. Right? What's the matter with you people? Come on.
We've been waiting all day, and not one person has offered. Can you believe that?
Not one.
Not one.
I'm sorry, guys. I'll make sure it happens in the bar later
there you
on.
Go.
Okay. I'll be there, Peg.
Well, can you just tell us a little bit about you? What do you do? And just.
So in 2007, for my sins, I got on a plane from London and came to Los Angeles, California, with my two children. I was a single mother at the time. My daughter was 12 and my son was 8. And I came because my daughter wanted to be an astronaut. And 2 months earlier, I'd called Harvard and said, what does it take to be an astronaut and work for NASA? He said, well, first of all, you got to be American. And of course, we were not American. And he said, secondly, did you say that you were Caribbean? I said, yeah. He said, well, then I would suggest you go to a public school and get your daughter on a public track for high school. And then she could probably get a full ride to Harvard, because he had read her transcript from her British school. So that's what brought me here. Well, a week into arriving in Los Angeles and entering what we call the public education system of America, my two children sat me down, as they do, and said, okay, this is not funny. Why did you bring us here? And I said, I make TV shows and I'm an educator and an activist. They said, well, then go back to activism, because we were not getting what we thought we were getting in our public school. So I said, it can't be that bad. So I decided to go and spend a whole week in both of my children's classrooms. And at the end of that week, I said, okay, I could do two things. I could go to the Office for Civil Rights and complain about this, or I could partner and collaborate. And because I'm a partnering and collaborating type of gal, I ended up working and have not stopped working in public education in California since then. So it's 2024, and here I am, proud to say that both of those 12 and 8-year-olds graduated LAUSD with a 4.0 GPA and a 5.0 GPA. The daughter is an aerospace engineer today for Rolls-Royce. I know, give it up, the audience! Came out of my womb, that did. And my son is the tech director, computer science graduate. Deandra is an astrophysicist, scientist, and mathematician. So let's give it up for public school education. When you partner with your parents, it can happen.
Yeah, very good. So I know that we're going to dive into a little bit later, and we're going to talk about a math classroom that reflects me and how that supports all learners. But Duane, do you want to kind of set the stage for us and the...
Yeah, so here's the problem with conferences. The problem with conferences is they end. And the awesome kinds of conversations that we're having right here end. And often, in fact, literally last night, as we were sitting around a table, I was hanging out with my friend John. Who's John? John is the guy I see every year at Palm Springs. And then we talk about math, and then he leaves, he goes to his job somewhere, and then this is it. And that's the problem. Because conferences are all about community and conversation, but then we do nothing to extend that conversation. So Cole and I said we're going to try and do our little part to fix that. We could either go to civil rights thing and complain, or we can invite our friends like Yolande and do stuff like this. And so we've got the podcast, that's the purpose of it. We do a monthly, every third Thursday of the month, we do a webinar as well. It's the idea of keeping the conference going. So that's the first problem. The second problem, and this is why this is going to be audience participation. So the second problem with these conferences is people like Yolande are coming here and preaching to the choir. The people who need to hear this aren't here. Probably because they secretly, in their heart, maybe they feel like they're not welcomed. Their thoughts are not welcomed. Their skepticism isn't welcomed. So why go to a place where there's 2,500 people who all feel like I'm wrong? And so what you're going to do is we work next to these people. They are next door to us. They are either skeptical or reluctant or downright, perpetuators of... Ornery, thank you. I was going to say educational malpractice, whatever. And so what you're going to do, we want you to leave equipped with what to say and how to work with the skeptic next door. So we are going to ask you deliberately to listen to Yolande with a skeptical ear. And I want you to ask her, there's going to be question time for you to deliberately ask her uncomfortable questions, not because that's how you feel, but we're asking you to be a skeptic on behalf of the people who aren't here, so that you can hear the kinds of questions, so that you can then take those answers and work them out with your neighbor next door. Does that sound good? Good, because that's our plan, and so if it didn't sound good,
then we're in trouble.
Okay.
Yeah, then we're in trouble.
All right, so now go.
Right, and just for everyone that's listening and here as well, this will also be posted up on the CMC website following this. So these conversations, they're going to resonate with folks well beyond just this room here today. So, are you ready for this?
Oh, cool.
Did I include that in my email?
It doesn't matter. Bring
perfect.
it on.
I figured.
Skeptics, I'm ready.
Okay, awesome. All right, so can you help then kind of unpack for us this idea of a classroom that reflects me? What does that mean to you?
What does that mean to me? Well, as a black Brit that now lives in America, blackness is wider than the term of just African American. So that's the first place that we need to start. Whenever people think of blackness, they only think of people that were brought as slaves from Africa to America, but we make up a whole in this continent, so of this thing called America. So there's Caribbeans, there's Nigerians, there's Jamaicans. My parents are from Trinidad. I was born in England. I've traced my African ancestry to Nigeria. So that's all that makes up me. My children are mixed race. They have Irish and French fathers, but they still call themselves black, right? And so when I think of that classroom and people are addressing blackness in education, I really want to make sure that they think of the term global rather than just America. Because so many of us come here for a brighter future, a better start, more access, more opportunities, but then we're lumped into one group called the African American community. And we are a part of that because we are all Africans, but that second term, American, is never broken down for all of us. And when you begin to look at the data and you disaggregate that data called Black or African American, you find within that the immigrant population is somewhat doing better than our African American population. And no one really ever talks about that. And why does that happen? Well, that happens for a whole host of reasons. When I ask my African American parents what their schooling was like, they talk about some of the very same things that we hear about today. They talk about not being ever felt like they were included in a classroom. We know that Brown versus Board of Education is now 70 years on, and we're still having the same conversations about where Black children are at. They're never seen as brilliant, and I deliberately walk around with this t-shirt that's called Black Kids Love Math because I had these two kids, right? I had these two kids who loved math, and I've met millions of children over the years who look like me who also love math. So I'm trying to dispel this myth that Black children do not like math or Black children are not good at math. And then on top of that, when I'm talking with educators, teachers, school district superintendents, who, by the way, are also math phobic, I have to say that and remind them as the leaders of this conversation that until we change how we even see mathematics in this country, with civilizations of Africa and the Aztecs and the Mayans and the indigenous population really creating math, we're never going to be respected. So sorry to throw that at my skeptics, but that's my opening conversation of where we need to begin around Blackness, because ultimately, and I hate to say it 48 hours after your political upheaval, but the anti-Blackness is on a rise in the rhetoric, and we really have to begin to have different conversations which are uncomfortable now, and they're going to be uncomfortable, dare I say it, for the next 4 years, around what Black children, brown children, children of color are going to require in our classrooms. So that's what I'm seeing when I sit as a Black woman in a classroom observing math.
And so whenever you engage, because I know you're doing work with a lot of schools, especially in the LA area, but now you're starting to stretch out statewide.
Sure am.
The knowledge shop, correct? Yeah. So whenever you engage with leaders,
Yes.
And they're looking at their data, they're identifying the trends that you're speaking of. What is that first step that you take with districts really to nudge them in the right direction, right? Because sometimes they see it, but they're not really willing to take that leap of faith or that, right? How do you do that?
Well, I hate to say it, and I've kind of alluded to it in my previous statement, a lot of our leadership in education see reading as the bully, right? So reading and literacy is what they will expel and pontificate on for hours. As soon as my little hand goes up and say, can we talk about math now? You can see their whole personality change of face, color changes, because they themselves weren't good at math. And may I say to my skeptics out there, have any of you ever had conversations with your own leadership, principals, administrators, superintendents about how good were you at math? And then you might find some of the issues that we're discussing today is the why they're there. They've never really made it a priority. And I think what I love about the California math framework is that it's forcing these conversations to happen at the top all the way down to the bottom. So no one can hide anymore. You can't avoid the conversation of where math is, what math looks like. We can gap gaze. I showed a slide earlier on that said that Black children will become math proficient by 2053. Well, I will be 125 then, and I know Black don't crack, but I want to be around for that change in data. And so we have to do something about it right now. And I think the key to that change, Cole, is the piece in the framework that talks about two things. One, equity, a word that people don't like, but we need to discuss it. And two, the relationship that families play in this conversation around math achievement, that it's no longer just about teachers, educators fighting from your classrooms to change the trajectory, but empowering your parents of Black and brown families who themselves want their children to be able to succeed in America, get a job in a STEM field, be able to go on to college and university, They are really your cheerleaders, and you must bring them into these conversations and don't leave them outside your classrooms.
That's I wanted to get snaps for that right there. So I'm thinking about you've been talking about the data, and I'm looking forward to the. I honestly just blinked on the question I was going to ask you.
That's okay, it's all right.
That's how you do a live podcast, right?
Yeah.
We'll edit that in
Yeah, there we go,
post-production.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. That's what you
how
can
it
do.
goes. Yeah, no, I was totally gonna ask you a really great question. Yeah, here I'm gonna kick it to Duane while I recap myself.
Yeah,
here.
so here's the deal. So
We got someone with a hand up already. The skeptics are ready to roll.
Oh, there's
Throw them at me.
dude, Nathan nailed it last
He did?
episode.
Okay, come on then, Nathan.
He was a good skeptic. All right,
Do I need
so-
my glasses on?
No.
Go on,
Oh,
Nathan.
there you go.
When engaging with families, the number one question I get, no matter what the ethnicity or whatever, is how can I help my kids in math when I don't know how to do the math?
Yes.
And that brings me kind of the same question that I asked previously, which is math is lonely because you go home. It's great in the classroom if you have a great math teacher and they're there, they're supporting you, they're taking the pressure off, they're letting you explore and learn to love math, but then you actually have to go do the math.
Yes.
And whether it's getting rid of homework, okay, that could be something, but then the child is not succeeding on their tests and not doing well, whether it's because of homework or not. We don't have to argue about that point, but it was more that they're not practicing the math, either because they're not interested, you didn't make it interesting, they struggle at it, they have a bad attitude at it, so they're not practicing the math. They may be practicing in the classroom, but they're still struggling, and then they're getting a bad grade for whatever reason. And then you would engage with those families and they would say, how can I help my kid? But I don't have an answer to that because I don't know how you'd help your child in that you don't know how to do the math, meaning the parents, or they're too busy. It might not even say that they can't do the math, but like that's often the thing, or they have just a lot of other pressures. So the truth is there is nobody to help that kid with math. So now what are they supposed to do that they're sitting at home? And as a teacher, I don't have any way to tell them except for what I currently do is say, take the pressure off. Like, it's okay. I'll handle it at school. You know what I mean? And support and love your kid and be a great parent, which is, and support them in their education. But there is that rub where you're still getting a D in math and getting farther behind.
I love that question. So here I'm going to take you on a journey with me. You ready? Okay, let's go. So it's not just all about the child going home and being lonely. We have to change the environment that we teach and educate mathematics. Math is not just about what goes on in a classroom. It's about what goes on outside school. And so we have to, Nathan, whether we think the parents know or don't know, and can I put my hand up now? I was the math-phobic parent with the astrophysicist. But what did I do? Once I was in that culture of people that were good at math, my friends, they checked Deandra's homework. I would phone them and say, I don't get what this is all about. I don't want to wake up tomorrow and don't think I don't understand this. Help me to understand. And what I've done in the last 20 years is built that into programs. So I now bring families into room and say, I've got this 28 veteran teacher here. Her name is Gabriella Mitchell. She's my director of family math. And we train parents in what is Common Core. And they go, but why didn't the school ever help us with this? Why didn't they ever bring in just the kindergarten parents that go, so this is what you can do with your child at home. This is what homework is going to look like. And we do it from TK all the way to grade 12. And what you find in that room is you create a cadre of parents who are actually really good at math, who then start to help the parents like the math-phobic yo mother that was not good at math. But I'm an engineer, or I'm a doctor, or I'm a nurse, or I work in Rouse, but I always loved math. But I never had a teacher that identified that I was good at it. And now you're building that community. And that community now helps that one child who is lonely, who thinks, well, my parents can't do this because this is what they do. But now they have a community of parents who they can go, oh, that parent can help me, or that student can help me. And we've got study buddies, and we've got after-school programs, and we've got community centers who are now talking about math. That's what we have to cultivate in our communities. It's not good enough for me anymore for us to hear that children are lonely. and they go home and they get a D, and they keep getting Ds, and we know that Ds turn to E's and E's turn to F's. We're not trying to go downwards, we're trying to go upwards. So I'm gonna help you in your community, as Cole's already alluded. I go across the state, helping school districts and schools and teachers build community one classroom at a time. I go in and observe classrooms. I go in and watch classrooms. I go and talk with teachers. I go and observe what's a thinking classroom, what's a learning classroom, what's a classroom where a child is failing. How do we change that level of conversation of failure to success? And it takes time. There's no quick fixes. That's what I tell school districts. Don't bring me in for the once a year family math night. Yolande gets everyone going. They all go choo choo. They love the Brits, all the Queens visiting. And I leave, and then I don't come back till next year. No. We have to create a new culture of math being as important as reading is in your school or your classrooms. And so let's bring some equality to that and equity. How about that for an answer, Mr. Nathan? All right.
Something like, as I'm listening to, and I've heard you speak a number of times, and as I'm hearing you speak this time, it's just making me really think about this idea. You're talking about a community of parents that you're building, but what you're also doing, though, is you're building this trusting relationship with the school to help empower these parents.
Yes.
And then the parents then can help carry that charge, and the school's helping just kind of fill in as they need, but the parents themselves can be the support system and structure for each other.
Correct.
That's quite incredible, yeah.
We have two skeptics.
Come on, bring it on.
Go.
Love it.
Here.
So I hear what you're saying,
Yes.
but what does it really look like for me as the teacher to bring family and community into my instruction?
First of all, you didn't say your name.
I'm Kyle the Skeptic.
Kyle the Skeptic. Okay, Kyle the Skeptic. Kyle the Skeptic, first of all, you gotta love parents. That's the first part of your skepticism you're gonna have to change, because they're gonna see right through you, Kyle the Skeptic, that you've never spoken to them before, you've only ever called them when your child's not doing well. Parent-teacher conference night, you're always in a rush, you've got your 3 minutes, I'm sorry you're running late, you only get 2 minutes now. The whole thing about Kyle the Skeptic is gonna have to change. And that means that you're gonna have to be, putting on an act for a while until you get it. What do I mean by that? I say to teachers that unless children see that you truly love them, their parents are gonna feel that you don't love them either. So you're gonna have to identify children in the classroom with parents who you think you can build this small cohort of learning and love and attention that then begins to grow over time in your class. So you might find 2 or 3 students and their parents to work with at first. You're gonna meet after school, you might meet on a Sunday afternoon, you might go to In-N-Out with them, and you start that small work of changing the game about how they feel about you, which is probably gonna be something you're not gonna expect. That they're gonna tell you, I didn't even think you liked us. I thought you was a racist. I didn't even know you liked girls. I mean, they're gonna say things like that to you, and you, Carl the Skeptic, are gonna have to be prepared like I am with your answers and how you're gonna respond. Because if you want them to be with you, you want them to be on your side, you want them to grow with you over the years, because teachers stay for years in schools, and they'll pass that message to the next child, the next parent, the next community member. You're gonna have to do a little bit more work than just show up in the morning, teach a class, and go home at night.
That's good, man. Aren't you glad you weren't really the skeptic? We're all absolving Kyle. Okay, he was doing his job. Yeah. Speaking of doing her job, Christina has a question.
AKA Queen.
Oh, Queen, yes, the skeptic.
Now, you mentioned this. I send the parent-teacher conference form, and they don't come back. My parents just won't come. So they obviously don't care about their students' education.
Oh, that's
I
good.
hear that one
Oh, good. You're
all
good.
the time. And then I ask schools, when do you do parent-teacher conference night? Because a lot of the community that I talk to and I serve, my black and brown people, they're working when parent-teacher conference night is taking place. And even though we know that they can take time off from work and go to these things, the jobs that they have won't give them time off. So we have to find a different way of meeting the needs of the communities we serve. You know, we train families on a Sunday afternoon. People go, are you crazy? No, that's the need of my community. So until schools realize you're not an 8 to 5 building, you're a community building that serves the community, you're gonna constantly have the parents don't care, the parents don't show up, they don't wanna be involved. Ask me why when I go to an event for parents and I provide the food they wanna eat and I provide it at the time they wanna do it, they bring their cousin, their uncle, their auntie, their grandma, and we have a full house. And the school looks at me and goes, but we did that, we sent out an email. No, I didn't send out an email. I sent an email, and then I text them, and then I called them, and then I went to their home, and then I put a letter in the backpack, and then I reminded the kid they'd get extra credit, and then I gave them a Starbucks gift. Do you understand? It takes a lot more than a robocall 4 times a week. How we got parent-teacher conference 90s at 5 o'clock, don't forget to come, we're gonna put a pizza, they're gonna be crispy. They don't care. But they love their children. That's why they have to work and provide food on the table. So when you're prepared to meet them where they're at, you're gonna have a full house of parent-teacher conferences with parents who are engaged, with children who feel proud that their parents have been able to come because you provided a time that they can attend. And that's all there is to it, people. You gotta change the game in the way that you play it. Because the way that you're playing it, you're not playing it to win.
Wow. Holy moly.
So we are, I mean, can you believe that was already a half hour?
I was just warming up.
I know. I'm ready for another half hour. We're gonna have to get you back on the podcast. We can zoom you in from anywhere. We'll have to follow up on this conversation.
Oh, I'm gonna be in Kern County. I won't have to zoom in
that's
from
true.
anywhere.
Yeah, that's right. She's gonna be in Kern a lot this next year,
right.
hopefully. So we'll get that. And you're gonna be at CMC Central,
That's
March
right.
7th and 8th.
Yes, don't miss it.
Don't miss it. It's gonna
I'll be back.
It's gonna
in
be a
the
party
words of
there.
Arnold.
There we go. Any closing thoughts for the group, for the podcast?
I want to say this to you all. Just love your families like they're your family. It's not difficult. You know, if we just brought a little bit of humanizing to this work, right? Because I know many teachers go in this because you love educating little people. But you have to love educating them and their families. We have a country of immigrants that have come here because they want a better life for them and their children. They want a better education for them and their children. They want their children to be college bound so they could go on to be astrophysicists or computer scientists or mathematicians. But they have to believe that you also believe that. The people who run these buildings called schools, school districts, and county offices. And I think when we move to a place of love, as simple as that sounds, you just take your classroom and you turn that into a place of love, you'll begin to see how much support these people will give you called parents. And that's all I have to add.
Wow, fantastic.
Everybody, would you all please join me in thanking Yolande? All right.
And how can they find you if they want to
You
get?
can find me on yo@theknowledgeshopla.com, or my cell phone or my email or my website is theknowledgeshopla.com. Or if you have African American families, because I support Black families specifically around my work, it's called www.nappy.org. So you can find me anywhere, and I will come to any place, any school, anytime to talk like I do to parents.
Fantastic. Thank you.
You all have a great day. Thank you very much. Oh, wow.